So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into our third annual panel on diversity at Informs. I'm Alexandra. I'm a senior software development manager in SCOT, which stands for Supply Chain Optimization Technologies. And I'll be leading today's chat with our panelists from across SCOT. And they are truly a remarkable group of people, and I'm sure you will all enjoy hearing about their experiences. So first of all, we all want to welcome and congratulate the recipients of the very first Amazon SCOT Fellowship who are watching this panel today. Congratulations. This fellowship represents Amazon's commitment to improving representation in the professional pipeline of operations research, management science, and analytics research. We hope you're all enjoying the conference, and I know that the SCOT team members are looking forward to connecting with you all directly at the networking sessions. So thank you for being here. Let's start with a note on what innovation and diversity mean to Amazon. Innovation is really at core of everything that Amazon does. So we say that every day is a day one, meaning that we strive to think big, come up with new and bold ideas, dare to try new things. And also we allow ourselves sometimes to fail, because if we never fail, then we're probably being a little too safe in our thinking. Ultimately, we always want to learn, explore, and be curious. And we realize that new ideas are prerequisites for innovation, and diversity of our people is key to bringing in these fresh perspectives and challenging our thinking. Related to that, Amazon has recently introduced 2 new leadership principles, which are expected to guide the organization at all levels. The goal of striving to be the world's best employer and a positive force in our communities. And fostering an environment of inclusion at workplace and making sure that everyone feels comfortable to bring their authentic self to work is an essential part of this commitment. So before we dive into the questions for our panel, I just wanted to give our audiences a brief overview of different teams in SCOT and the type of optimization problems they're working on. So I myself am from forecasting, and we use machine learning to forecast demand for all products sold on Amazon around the globe. And it's a very interesting problem space because we need to consider different factors such as local holidays, seasonal variations, Prime membership, as well as unexpected events such as COVID or an artist winning an award. Fulfillment optimization team forecasts the need for transportation. They optimize the delivery network and they compute the most efficient way to deliver purchases to customers. Inventory planning and control team determine how much of each product is needed at each location, and they want to ensure that our products are available to customers at the lowest cost. Optimal sourcing system manages supply, and they find ways to work around any supply disruptions. So I will now turn it to our panelists to tell us a bit about themselves. And let's start with a question for each one of you. Please tell us how long you've been at Amazon and what do you do now, and how does your background help you to be successful?
Thanks, Alexandra. I'll kick it off first. So I joined Amazon in October of 2016 as part of the Global Mile team. The Global Mile team is responsible for building transportation products and solutions for sellers and internal Amazon divisions that move inventory and customer orders across our hard borders. Now, hard border typically is, as you all know, what has happened recently in the last year between UK and Europe, with creating a hard import and export border between the UK and continental Europe with Brexit. This team started from scratch across different job families, mostly focusing on supply chain experts and people that understand the cross-border space. But we soon realized that optimization of volumes, routings, different types of orders are going to be critical for a competitive advantage in the cross-border space, and therefore started investing more resources in simulation and machine learning as key differentiators to plan and execute our shipments across the borders. And as a result, we've evolved from a product and program team to more of a scientific team that gets involved in optimization across the world. Thank you.
Okay. In my case, I joined Amazon 2 years ago, coming from a background in machine learning, technology, and more recently, consumer finance. My team and we're responsible for producing the long-term aggregate forecast, demand forecast for Amazon. This forecast is super useful for our teams in operations and finance, where they use it to make long-term financial decisions, investment decisions, and planning. So this is an interesting problem because it's not only a time series problem, but this is a problem where we need to look into the signals that influence the dynamics of that demand, right? And those signals can be external to Amazon or internal, like the state and the health of our supply chain. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julian Pachon. I joined Amazon 7 years ago to lead the science team for the Amazon last mile operations. Since that time, the team has grown from a single OR scientist to over 60, covering a wide variety of disciplines, including optimization, machine learning, AI, statistics, simulation, and many others. In my team, we developed the models which efficiently deliver packages from the delivery station to the customer doorstep. And these models include, the way from capacity planning, scheduling, sortation planning, route planning, assignment, dispatch, on-road optimization, as well as inferring all the inputs that are used to run these models. I have been affiliated to Impulse for the past 20 years.
I think that just leaves me. So I'm Stephanie Collett. I've been with Amazon 8 years. I started right after an MBA program. I actually joined in our fulfillment center network. So my first role was actually in an FC, leading teams. I like to say my first role, I was actually walking 13 miles a day. And so it was a lot of fun, a good chance to really understand how our physical processes work. I spent 4 years in the FCs and then moved to our supply chain organization. And so now I lead our sourcing team, which is part of Optimal Sourcing Systems, as Alexandra talked about. Our goal is to basically maximize the amount of inventory or supply that we're able to get from our vendors and to reduce the end-to-end supply chain costs. So I now lead a team, a multifunctional team made up of kind of software, product, science, all focused on optimizing our end-to-end supply chain and building software that kind of scales and automates our interactions with our vendors.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So to me, it's really interesting to hear about all this cross-disciplinary work that is taking place in your domain. And I want to ask you, related to that, when you think of diversity, what comes to mind for you and what does it mean to you and how do you apply it as a leader?
Thanks, Alexandra. I'll take the first stab at that question. Diversity to me means we give equal access to everyone, which in turn gives us the opportunity to build real-world solutions. At the heart of Global Mile is the whole world, and we have learned that it is essential for our teams to have diverse backgrounds, to consider different solutions that impact our sellers and our customers with varying degrees of access to resources. When our teams develop solutions, they intentionally bring this into the conversation to influence the design and what success ultimately looks like. Therefore, access to people from a variety of university and disciplines allows us to achieve this exact goal.
I can add a bit to that too. So I would consider myself a passionate advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm actually the executive sponsor for DE&I in the Scott organization more broadly. I work with the leadership team and Scott to come up with our strategic direction, our goals and initiatives each year, et cetera. For me, it's about kind of one, having diverse perspectives that match our customers, that match our the kind of broader employee base at Amazon, and match kind of our suppliers as well, so that we are building solutions that work kind of end to end from upstream vendors down to the end customers. I think we couldn't problem solve and innovate without different perspectives. For example, I mean, as I mentioned, I came from our fulfillment centers, and so my kind of knowledge and awareness of our physical processes adds, I think, a lot to the discussion, where somebody else might come at it from kind of a more theoretical approach or from a really strong product emphasis, it allows us to kind of share ideas. And that, I mean, I'm using diversity as a very broad term in terms of background, but also the kind of traditional views of diversity, including kind of female, Black, Latino, Latina, Native American, et cetera. So all of these different perspectives bring a lot to the table. I
agree definitely agree that diverse teams bring different perspectives to the table. But also I like to think that we need to support these diverse teams in ways that allow them to work in ways that support their style, in the way that they make them collaborate best. For example, scheduling meetings in ways that enable work-life balance, or balancing synchronous and asynchronous collaboration.
Yes, thank you all. And let's stay with this topic of diversity and innovation at Amazon for a bit. I'm curious, are you able to share any examples or anecdotes between diversity and innovation?
Yeah, I think, if you look at my space in terms of cross-border transactions, you can imagine that every shipment that Amazon Global Logistics handles is touched by stakeholders across different countries, like at least I would say 4 to 5 different countries and different backgrounds. And we have to consider that when we're building our products, that it has to scale globally. And it has to also accommodate a range of cultural preferences in terms of how our customers would like to interact with us. For example, our customers in Europe tell us that they prefer reliable email support, but our Asia-based customers wish for instant support, and they prefer mobile-friendly channels. And this has influenced a differentiated support strategy within our customer service environment. Another example is a content-heavy marketing flyer is more effective through WeChat channels as a sales strategy in China versus in Europe, where we have to have a portal with very clearly defined sections for help content and promotions. And the same applies for our US-based customers, where their preference is going into a portal, getting their information there, where our China-based customers or our Asia-based customers prefer some kind of push methodology that is content-rich through existing channels that they have. So these different understanding these different cultural nuances is really, really important as we think about building our products and being innovative, accommodating diverse backgrounds, and making sure that they kind of meet the hearts and minds of the customers exactly where they want us to be.
And this is a very interesting question. Amazon fosters an environment which encourages different ideas and approaches to solving problems. We have found that incorporating input from a diverse group of individuals has allowed us to develop very unique solutions to very complex problems. Further, these solutions must be able to address all of the difference between different parts of a country in all the different countries in the world that we run operations. So to do this, it's important to have a group of scientists with a variety of background, experiences, and nationalities. In the last mile science team, we have folks with over 15 different nationalities. We also have found that each university has strengths in different areas, and incorporating scientists from a variety of different universities adds an important dimension to our team and help us think bigger and innovate faster.
Thank you. Very interesting. Let's talk for a second about Amazon as an employer. From your perspective, what grounds Amazon as a leader in diversity and inclusion?
I think from my perspective, is the way that Amazon or Amazon's philosophy around building mechanisms versus good intentions. So if you take the topic of DEI, we've really inculcated that into our daily conversations. And we use existing mechanisms to do that. For example, when we do start a meeting, we provide diversity tips to ensure that one, it's top of mind when we're entering into meetings. Two, that it kind of opens up discussion around the topic and people can identify with it. And three, the reinforcement component becomes really high, because sometimes these tips are either repeated or it's brought forward from a different perspective and people can identify with it. So it's really good. Amazon built out these mechanisms rather than just having good intentions, and that is, to me, is a great example of how really ingrain it in just the way we do things on a daily basis. I think the other example that I think is also really good in terms of what makes Amazon as a leader in this space is it's not only are we saying that this is important to us, but we've actually brought it into our leadership principles, with one of our latest ones being the striving to be the world's best employer, where every single day us as leaders have to work to create a safer, more productive, high-performing and more inclusive environment. And for those that know Amazon, the leadership principles is something that we live by every single day, and it becomes the basis of the way that we run meetings. It becomes the basis of the way that we evaluate performance, make trade-off decisions, and so forth. And I think that those two examples to me are great indications of where diversity is not just kind of an intention, but it is really something that we all firmly believe in, and we measure our own performance against that every single day.
I think you're muted.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I absolutely agree with the comments you've made. And I would like to explore that a bit further and look at the flip side of the coin. So we all sometimes have these moments in our careers when things don't go our way. And I'm curious, can you share a personal moment when innovation was blocked because of non-diverse thinking or non-diverse environment?
Yeah, I actually have an example. My team was working on basically a product where we wanted to identify the best way of kind of sourcing inventory from various vendors. For example, we can order it in a pallet, so we are ordering enough units to make up a full pallet, or a truckload. We can order enough units to get a full truckload, or import it from another country, etc. And so we wanted to basically identify kind of the optimal sourcing program for every kind of vendor ASIN or vendor product kind of combination that we're currently sourcing from. And the product manager working on that, they went to one scientist in the org who happened to have a strong emphasis on ML. And that scientist said we should solve this with an ML approach. We should pull historical costs, historical kind of sourcing information, and basically run it through an ML model, and it will predict based on the various features for these other ASINs that maybe don't yet have some other sourcing strategy. And so that's the direction that we went, and it was I think a mistake only getting that one perspective. And getting that one perspective from somebody with a just one specific type of or one primary focus area. So as they went through the process, basically they identified that one, we were missing we didn't have deep, rich data. There were a large pool of ASINs that are products that we had no kind of historical data on in this context. And then two, we were constantly coming up with new sourcing programs or new ways of kind of getting inventory. And in order to incorporate in this model, we would need all this historical data. And so we've now identified that we're now assessing a few other options, including like more of a simulation approach to it, et cetera. And And honestly, I really believe like if we had just kind of networked this idea more broadly, gotten more perspectives on the problem, 8 months ago, we would be in a completely different place. So now we're kind of delayed on having the right solution here. And that's 8 months of work, like really, really, truly important work. And so, I think it's a good lesson for the team, for myself. But I've also seen instances where having like we have the diverse stakeholders and perspectives in the room, and it's really driven benefits. Even early during COVID, we were prioritizing kind of essential inventory into our network, and having diverse perspectives in that equation meant that we weren't just kind of prioritizing the top stuff that customers were looking at, but that we were also focused on fully inclusive kind of prioritization of essentials. So essentials for kind of every kind of human, not just a kind of single type of human. So I've seen it go both ways.
Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing that. And a question, I guess, for anybody who wants to take this one, can you speak about what you like most about Amazon, and what is it that you're excited about?
Sure, I can take that. What I like the most is the ability to innovate. In order to innovate, you have to experiment. And as any scientist knows, when you experiment, you have to be willing to accept failure. At Amazon, we are encouraged to try new things and to fail fast. Jeff Bezos says, if you are not failing enough, you're not innovating enough. So by doing this, we are able to produce many new innovative ideas. And one of the advantages that Amazon has is that we have extensive operations which we can learn from, but also we have very large number of delivery stations throughout the world in which we can run experiments.
Yep. And in my case, I'm really excited and I enjoy the opportunity to learn from other people, from other team members. It seems like everybody has a superpower, right? So we work in a team with people from different backgrounds, economists, machine learning, applied scientists, data scientists, research scientists. So everybody's bringing a technical superpower, it seems, to the table, right? And it's really exciting to learn from this team. But I also think that not only people are bringing technical superpowers to the table, they also bring superpowers that are non-technical. So for example, some people are really good in abstracting a problem to the core. Some other people are really good in writing documents. Some other team members are very good in, earning consensus, finding consensus, earning trust. So I think is really, from my perspective, I'm really excited on learning not only from the technical side, but also, being in this type of environment where everybody brings, their best and their superpowers to the table and learning from them as well.
Anyone else want to chime in on this? Let's move on then. Can you talk a little bit about some of the exciting innovative solutions or projects that you have worked on?
Yeah, I mean, I think in our space, in the cross-border transportation space, we are currently thinking through a way to help our sellers. So our sellers are sell through our different websites, how they could easily navigate the import processes to get their inventory across the borders into Europe. And really what we want to do is we want to optimize for the risk that they may bear, the cost that they may incur, and the service levels that they need in terms of getting the inventory into our fulfillment network. And all of that in relationship to the third parties or brokers, customs brokers we use to manage that particular transaction and how they connect better with the seller. We also have another dynamic where there could be lots of replanning in this scenario that results in updated requests in terms of this import transaction. You've seen some of the inbound supply chain challenges and just delays could result in maybe different quantities, different dates, different places that the inventory is importing into. And what are the right gating mechanisms that we need to put in place to help that transaction between the customs broker and the seller? These additional constraints increase the complexity of the algorithms we're building. This project is taking the approach of working with brokers who might not have the technology sophistication to build these integrations with Amazon. And what we're doing is we're extending our brokerage UI to them where they could perform the operations within this particular UI. This particular tool handles the authentication, access control, and task assignments to eliminate the complexity of these brokers. As volumes increase, the brokers who have the tech sophistication would be able to integrate through APIs to add additional automation to the process. And we also want to make it easy and to onboard into these different platforms for the brokers, so that so they can just really sign up themselves to this program, and in that way we can unblock any capacity constraints or supply chain constraints and create more flexibility and resilience within the inbound supply chain. And at the same time, we can through automation of the workflows, we can reduce the cost and reduce the complexity by ingesting information at the time that we onboard both the brokers and the sellers. So it's a pretty complex space that we're in. Across board, anybody that knows me on this call knows that this is my world. But to simplify it and make it easy for both our service providers, which are the brokers, as well as the importers, which are our sellers, to get their inventory pretty much in any place in Europe, is really one of the most mind-boggling things my team is working on at the moment, to see how we can reduce the cost and simplify the process.
Yep, and in our case, in Scott top-line forecasting, one of the most challenging problems we faced, like I'm sure many other teams, was COVID, right? The arrival of COVID and how we had to address it and innovate. So as I mentioned, right, our team is responsible for producing a forecast of demand for a long horizon, about 4 or 5 years into the future. So historically, right, our models were able to, take trends and seasonality, do some sort of extrapolation, and arrive at the forecast. But with COVID, right, this method stopped working. Right, they were not able to produce sensible, reasonable forecasts anymore. And I think, again, to your question, Alexandra, what was the most exciting and something innovative that we did was really addressing this. So the first problem we had is that in a very short period of time, we had to focus on try to understand what were the dynamics of what was driving these changes in demand. Right. Of course, we knew it was the pandemic, but how it was manifesting, what was the cost and effect, and how much it was going to last, and how things were going to move forward was really what was challenging for us. So very quickly, we look at signals from outside and inside Amazon, and we develop new models. We actually, in a very quick period of time, we pull all those data sets, we align them, we analyze them, and we produce a new model that was, as I said, taking into considerations signals both from outside Amazon, like macroeconomic signals, as well as signals that reflected the health and the state of our supply chain. So it was really, again, exciting, and at some point it was really, a very fast-paced activity. But I think it was great for me to work in a problem like that.
I'll share just one thing that my team's working on that I'm that's interesting and kind of challenging for us right now. Maybe a little bit of the kind of COVID theme, but not COVID, but the global supply chain challenge theme has really started to help us think about kind of inventory in new and different ways. So historically, we kind of had this view that if we order inventory from a vendor, that they're fully incentivized to sell it to us so that we can go on and sell it to our customers, right? Like that's what vendors are in the business of doing, is making inventory and getting it kind of out to customers. And with the supply chain challenges, what we found though is that yes, like that is still the goal and kind of what everybody's working on, but inventory is constrained. And so now we're starting to think about things differently in terms of are there ways to kind of predict how much supply of inventory is available, maybe domestically, versus how much we could get if we were ordering it from the import channel or ordering it from the country of origin, and using some of these predictions to change how we might buy. So maybe we index more heavily on imports and buy less domestically, or we work to sign up that vendor for a kind of import relationship rather than just a domestic relationship. And so starting to use this kind of instance of global supply chain challenge to rethink even long term how we can better optimize how we source inventory. It's kind of a new and interesting challenge with a lot of it's how do you predict how much a vendor has domestically for you, is a super interesting challenge that we're working on right now. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, I have found it fascinating since I've joined Amazon, how complex and rich this problem space is. And my background is also in industrial engineering. So, I've been looking at these supply chain problems in the past, and just continue to be amazed by how many different factors there are to be considered in this space. And let's talk about interns at Amazon. And I think this is a topic that will be of interest to our audience. And I'm curious, if you could go back to when you were a student, what would you tell yourself from this perspective? And in particular, do you have any advice for the minority students who are starting their careers?
Well, I can kick off with some of my perspective, maybe not in terms of advice, but maybe just perspective, is that, within Amazon, internships are extremely valuable for our future leaders. And I think the great thing is that you typically do not work on deliverables that the business has already signed up for, but you have the luxury of working on things that are a little bit more think big items that help us shape our thinking of the future. The challenge is that some of that comes with a lot of ambiguity. So as you think about taking and embarking on an internship within Amazon, be prepared to kind of have a high level problem that you're trying to solve for, and then use a lot of your own intuition and data gathering capabilities to kind of narrow it down to exactly what the problem is. I'll give you an example. Is that last year we wanted to see if simple contacts within our space, contacts from our customers, could be automated through natural language processing. But we really just had no experience in building any of these capabilities in terms of, voice or chat bots. So we tasked our intern with this particular problem. And this particular intern didn't have any tech background in this particular space, and he had to kind of figure out the vagueness of this problem and really what it is that he's trying to solve for. And he really went and solved it in chunks, So he looked at what are the subcomponents of this, how to prioritize it, and then choose the battle that he wanted to fight, which is just the proof of concept chatbot with limited tech resources. So we really didn't have a lot of tech resources to support that particular solution. But he managed to do that, and he managed to bubble it down all within 3 months. And I think coming in with that bias for action, being comfortable with ambiguity, and asking for help when you need it is really the key to success for any internship. and then eventually, that both your performance and your idea may actually result in additional funding for the following year, and something you can drive, which is in fact what has happened with this particular example. So I think it's a great example of being able to come into an area that maybe you don't know a lot about. Maybe the subject is a little bit vague to you, but really creating chunkable components where you can actually address one problem at a time, and then coming up with a solution that's plausible and feasible in future. So that would be my advice in terms of how to handle the internship.
In the last mile, we have had interns, for the last couple of years, and I can tell you that working with interns have been a tremendously rewarding experience. In Amazon, we treat interns like new hires. They're paired up with an experienced scientist. They're asked to find a problem, and like anybody else in Amazon, they have to work backwards from the customer need to develop an appropriate solution. In this process, they want to find the inputs and the success metrics, and they propose a solution that is backed up with hard data, and then present the results. In some cases, we have actually implemented some of the intern solutions into live operations. And the goal is not only to challenge them to solve hard real-world problems, but also get them to a level where they want to come back when they finish their degrees. In fact, in the last mile, we have several former interns that are now part of the team.
Thank you. And I agree. I found actually that what impressed me the most, and I can speak as a reasonably new hire at Amazon, what impressed me as in the way that we structure internships for our interns is that we strive for each one of them to be a complete project. So something that a person can own from beginning to end, that they can put on their resume as a completed project, something that we strive actually to use in practice, something that probably will be a new idea. So in many ways, these internship projects are really very interesting, and we provide our interns with a lot of support. We want them to be successful. We want what they've been investigating to be something we can continue to use in the long term. So overall, I find that, a lot of our interns are very happy, and we're happy about that. So it works both ways. And just today, actually, we had a launch announcement for a dashboard that was completed by our summer intern. And this intern was a second year at university. So you can imagine that there was a lot of very new technologies that he came in contact with for the first time, and we were able to support him and get it to the point that it's something that we can actually keep and use. So I'm just very proud of how that worked out. And one advice I would give from my perspective to our interns is to not shy away from being a little bit greedy. Look for what you can take away from the experience. Try to learn as much as you can. Try to meet people, learn from them, ask them about their own experience, because, all of that provides some enrichment and hopefully, some useful contacts in the future, and also helps you evaluate if the environment is right for you, and you can make better decisions, in the future when you choose your future workplace.
And I would like to highlight something very quickly here. So the point of ambiguity, right, that was brought earlier. So it seems like when, especially in the context of internships, when, time is bounded and there's so much pressure, right? Layer that, interns will be facing a business problem, a real world problem, right? And those problems usually come with at least a small amount of ambiguity, right? And that creates a lot of anxiety. But ambiguity is really a characteristic of the business, right? And that's why, that's why companies have, all these teams of scientists, right, trying to resolve that, to crystallize the solutions for ambiguous problems. Even defining the problem is really making progress. So as an intern, right, especially in the early parts of a project, you will see that there's probably a little bit maybe sometimes a lot of what it seems a lot of ambiguity, right? But that's really a characteristics of the problems that businesses face.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And let's talk a little bit about what is new and exciting in the optimization space at Amazon. And also, if you want to build on the previous question about how you can overcome barriers to be successful, if you have any other thoughts, you can add to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I talked a little bit about a specific thing in my space, but if you look really broadly at what we're doing at Amazon, I mean, you've probably seen one of our thousands of Prime trailers with the kind of Amazon smile on the side. But you may not have seen that there's actually also a solar-powered GPS device on top of that trailer that allows us to track every asset across the network. We know exactly where they are, and we're able to use that GPS to help address defects before they impact customers. We also, once the trailers get into our yards, we pair that GPS with vision systems that recognize the license plates. They create an ability for us to have a touchless check-in process where there's no contact between kind of the guard checking in and the driver that's driving that trailer, which has been a big asset during COVID. And then behind all the scenes, we also have built state-of-the-art routing algorithms for aircrafts and trucks. They evaluate trillions of permutations to optimize our network. In fact, we were actually awarded the Informs Prize in recognition for long-standing application of science to our logistics. So I think overall, we continue to innovate and use kind of optimization in order to build a better network for our customers. In terms of kind of overcoming barriers, none of these things were accomplished kind of easily. I think everything has hit roadblocks. I talked about a project earlier in my team that's now kind of 8 months delayed, but it's about kind of learning from that opportunity, learning from the mistake, and then going at it from a different angle or improving. So it's not about kind of giving up and saying we still really value the idea and we need a different approach to get there. So that kind of fail fast mentality, although I'd say 8 months is probably not necessarily failing quite as fast as we would have liked to. But we use that to continue to overcome barriers and to kind of reapproach problems.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. I think even if we're successful, we're still continue to iterate on our ideas and make them better. So definitely agree with that. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of our conversation today. So first of all, thank you to all of our panelists for allowing us to get a glimpse of the challenging problems you're working on in your space and for sharing how you encourage diversity on your teams. And thank you to everybody watching for attending our conversation today. For more info, and if you'd like to learn about opportunities at Amazon, you can actually email us at informs2021@amazon.com. And also please visit amazon.science and you can stay up to date on our most recent news and announcements. And thank you all and enjoy the rest of the conference.